Airflow and your automation center of excellence. How can you embed Airflow into an automation landscape that's fit for purpose in today's ever increasing and ever increasingly complex automation world? Before I get started, just a little bit about myself. Why I brought on here? Well, we are part of the automation suite. We have integrations with Airflow. We recognize that our enterprise customers are integrating and ever growing their Airflow environments. I've got 25 years experience in automation. I started my career in financial services with JPMC and moved across into the IT sector around 10 years ago. I'm based in the UK, have a family. We live in a small town just east of Bath, and I'm a football coach involved in local football and or soccer, as you call it in the US around here. So just a little bit about me to tell you about my background and who I am as I address and speak to you today. Airflow. Isn't it powerful? What a great tool. It really is fantastic. And I'm speaking to people in large organizations, right down to small organizations that really are embracing the tool. But as the Airflow research or the Airflow survey of 2024 highlighted, there are some visibility gaps. And when Airflow is part of your enterprise, everyone is talking about AI, Gen AI, agentic AI, and the data pipelines that are really, really important to make sure that our AI engines, our LLMs, are actually able to perform the functions that they need to perform and that we're able to actually trust the insights that they're able to give us. So it's important that we understand those pipelines. It's important that we have visibility and that we have control over them. The power of Airflow. Okay, dynamic. We create DAGs, we create tasks, we use sensors, we integrate with so many different tools using Python and using Airflow. Because Airflow is Python native, it's friendly for developers. Developers are able to easily code, easily do what they need to do. It's available readily, meaning that it can be adopted quickly and it can be integrated quickly into those environments. The vibrant community that's here, everybody here today is part of that vibrant Airflow community. It's growing. It has all sorts of different personas, growing numbers of personas using the tool. It's here to stay. And at Broadcom, we recognize that we have to embrace it. Airflow is a great automation tool. What Airflow does is bring some challenges. In the enterprise, the reality is that we're running multiple Airflow instances or deployments. We could be running instances across multiple providers. Amazon are here with MWAA. We have Google Cloud Composer, native Apache Airflow, and we have different variants. But those Airflow systems that are available are often part of a larger ecosystem. Airflow does do a lot of the data pipeline work, but there are other tools and other complex systems and applications that are part of that data pipeline ecosystem. With the monitoring that's being done in a lot of automation systems today, Airflow and beyond, we're talking about reactive monitoring. We react when there's an issue, when there's an alert, and we try to resolve the problem. What the enterprise really needs is to be able to do the alerting proactively, understand where there may be issues ahead of time, not issues maybe in an hour or two's time, but an hour or two into tomorrow, into the day after tomorrow. Let's begin to understand how our data pipelines are going to perform in the future. Another thing pointed out in the Airflow survey of 2024 is that it's hard in some aspects to actually provide the people, the leaders, the data leaders with proof of the value that us as Airflow users are actually providing to the business. So we need to be able to prove that. We need to be able to quantify that. We need to be able to show that we are adding value. With all of these Airflow instances running, and maybe there's enterprise schedulers running alongside them, maybe they're orchestrating in some cases those Airflow systems, that leads to an operational overhead. Maybe there are multiple alerting systems, multiple monitoring systems, multiple orchestration tools that all need to be consolidated and made easier for the users and the operations groups of today to work with. I want to talk a little bit about how consistency is important in an enterprise environment. There have been some fantastic changes in Airflow 3, not least of which the move to a React model, which has meant that the UIs have really taken on a new form. The Gantt chart view of the executions available in Airflow 2 is one area where the changes between those UIs have metamorphosized. Again, Airflow 3, if you're using sensors to monitor and to track cross-DAG dependencies, Airflow 3 does a fantastic view of gives you a fantastic view of that cross-DAG dependency. You're actually able to visualize that there's an external task that a sensor is waiting on. What it doesn't do is give you the visibility above that sensor. So how about if you could view the jobs ahead of the sensor task or ahead of the task that's being monitored for completion, giving you a full end-to-end business view or a view of that entire process that's cross-DAG, maybe cross 2, maybe cross 4 or 6 DAGs. Maybe it's across 2 different Airflow providers or 2 different Airflow systems, and being able to map those together in a business-related process so that you can show that you have business tangible outcome. Map your DAGs and your data pipelines and your processes to business outcomes, and therefore make it much easier to present those business outcomes and your value as Airflow users and as Airflow champions to the wider business. So with all those changes between 2 and 3, and a non-trivial way of upgrading if you're using native Apache Airflow, what's coming in Airflow 4? How can we address this consistency and make sure that regardless of the version of Airflow you're using, regardless of the provider of Airflow you're using, you're able to provide that consolidated, consistent review or consistent monitoring, predictions and dashboarding and forecasting of those Airflow systems. So let me introduce analytics and intelligence platforms. We at Broadcom have our own platform. It's called Automation, Analytics and Intelligence, or AAI, and I have some screenshots here of that product. With analytics and intelligence platforms, you can, of course, gather that real-time monitoring. You can look at the real-time monitoring of your DAGs, of your tasks, and understand how they're running, how they're performing. You'll be able to track your service delivery. So many people I speak to have either deadlines or performance agreements that they need to meet. Being able to visualize those and track those, especially, as I mentioned, when they're crossing DAGs or maybe crossing between Airflow and enterprise scheduling systems, is a challenge. Performance analytics. What's your throughput? How many tasks are you running? How many DAGs are failing? How many tasks are failing? Bubble that all into a single pane of glass, into one dashboard. Multiple Airflow systems, maybe alongside enterprise automation systems, all feeding into this central repository. One place to go for those analytics, those reports, those trending insights for a raw Airflow business. Compliance. There are times when we need to prove what we're doing. We need to be able to understand and audit what we're doing. By having that single pane of glass, we're able to provide those reports in a single format, in an understandable way, and actually bring the data that we need to the people that need it. End-to-end visibility. So again, this provides a way of quantifying business outcomes. Being able to show what value Airflow is bringing to your enterprise, by being able to link those tasks to business outcomes. Think of it as not monitoring a DAG with a DAG name, but monitoring something that is more meaningful. Perhaps your Gen AI feeds for expense processing, as an example, or something along those lines. You're now monitoring and alerting on a business outcome rather than on a DAG name that could, to some, mean very little. To you as the developer, to you as the creator of that DAG, of course, everything makes sense. But as this data and as these processes become more mature and as they become an integral part of what your enterprise is doing, the understandability and being able to map, as I say, those DAGs to business outcomes and business processes becomes really important. When issues happen, they then become instantly understandable by whichever persona is looking at them. When I speak to our customers and to enterprises across the globe, it's clear that there are 4 personas that really, really do care about Airflow the most. From our data engineers needing to gather those real-time insights, being able to gather the performance metrics that they need. For the data scientists that really need confidence in their data accuracy, they need to be able to quickly validate data inputs. So they need to understand how their processes are flowing. The data platform leaders need those dashboards, at a glance, visibility of what's happening in their Airflow and in their enterprise automation systems. They need to understand their ROI metrics and the COE, the CDLO. Auditability and confidence are key to their role. They need to be able to be confident in what we are doing within the Airflow world. Something else that's become really obvious, especially over the last 5 or 6 years, is the democratization of automation. When I first started in automation 25 years ago, the IT department was centralized. We looked after all of it. We looked after the infrastructure. We looked after the tasks, the jobs in the automation system. We were responsible for not only making sure the system was up and running the tasks, we were responsible for fixing them if it went wrong. That's changing, and it's changing quickly. The power is shifting. The automation teams of today are really ring-fenced and responsible for managing the infrastructure, for managing the automation tools and making sure they're available to the users that need them. The choice of the automation tools, the self-service shift to the lines of business, to the developers, for the creation and the management and the execution of the workload, means that we have seen that shift. We're moving towards a self-service model, which means that the COE is now focused more on maintaining the tools, more on being able to control the capacity and drive their automation platform forward. So what's the transformative impact? Well, by embracing an analytics platform, you can move from a siloed model where everybody is operating in their own little world to a unified version of visibility, a full single pane of glass view across your automation landscape. We can move from a reactive stance to a proactive monitoring stance. Instead of understanding there's an issue when it happens, understand you have a potential issue in the future and have an opportunity, have a chance to address and remediate that before the issue actually impacts the business. And because we're able to prove our pipelines historically and see and forecast our pipelines in the future, we're no longer guessing how this process is going to run tomorrow. We can understand with a level of confidence how it's going to perform tomorrow, based on all of the historical data and execution and trending that we have within the system. So we turn into, for effect, snake charmers. We've calmed the environment. We've transitioned from what could be a potentially highly volatile a system to a calm system. We know exactly what's happening. We are able to figure out where our problems are. We're able to identify where they are ahead of time, and we're able to address them. So, key takeaways from my session today. Native Airflow observability has its limits. While it's great, there are areas that an analytics platform such as Broadcom's AI can help you to overcome. Airflow can really be elevated with this enterprise-grade observability. Plug Airflow into the enterprise. Make it part of your enterprise strategy moving forward. And help take those analytics, those reporting capabilities, really leverage them so that you can, again, share those insights, share the data that you so readily have available with other personas that may not understand Airflow as well as you do today. There's an integrated automation landscape. And by that, I mean embrace technology, embrace Airflow, embrace the other systems. While you're doing so, consider an orchestration. Consider how you're orchestrating the workload that you're running, the automation, the tasks that you're running today. Do you have automation running in Airflow as one example? Do you have automation running elsewhere in other applications? Could you benefit from having Airflow actually orchestrated by something else and have a single orchestration layer that's responsible for running your automation across the enterprise? Just to wrap up, I wanted to share a quick use case for one of our customers that moved to AI. They were running 50 to 60,000 jobs across multiple schedulers with 3 million executions a month. A huge environment. They had 35 to 40 operations staff that were monitoring those automation solutions. 10 to 15 people were responsible for looking after them. They embraced AI for the multiple automation systems that they were using, and they were able to improve their deadline management. They were able to improve their SLA achievement record, and they were able to enhance their business. So with that, I would like to thank you all for attending the session this afternoon. Thank you very much.